Ladies and gentlemen, good morning and welcome to this session, Multimodal Freight and Resilient Infrastructure, to the participants here in the room and the one online. My name is Paola Chiarini. I work for DG Move, the European Commission, in the unit Innovation and Urban Mobility, where I'm in charge, among other things, of logistics research. And I will co-moderate this session together with my colleague Isabelle Schnell of the Volvo Group. And Isabelle has an extensive experience within the group and holding global managerial positions in Europe. And Isabelle is also the co-leader for the working group Long Distance Freight Transport of the European Technology Platform AirTrack. In the sessions today we are going to have two projects, unfortunately not three, as Mr. Lars Klapper of the ReMuNet project was not able to attend. So we will have, however, the presentation on SARIL and for freight. Before starting, a couple of points just to give you a little bit of rationale and context of these topics. They both focus on two connected issues, resilience and multimodality. So SARIL, together with ReMuNet, even if it's not present today, is actually addresses resilience of supply chains. And in 2023, when we published the call, we were just facing various crises, from the pandemic to geopolitical disruptions, that has shown that the vulnerability of supply chains. So what we wanted to do was to explore new strategies to diversify transport routes, to enhance multimodal solution, and to ensure that critical supply chains would continue working even under stress. And all these while complying with our decarbonization objectives. Resilience today, in all its meaning, which is economic and industrial resilience, climate infrastructural resilience, preparedness to crisis, is even more of a priority for all the EU policies, and is more and more included as resilience by design. For instance, in the completion of the trans-European transport network corridors. So all this has to be considered resilience and not to be just an afterthought in case of a crisis. Somehow linked to resilience is also the concept of multimodality. For freight, tackles one of the challenges of multimodality, that is making nodes for multimodal freight transport even more efficient and more effective. And the idea of this project, of the call behind this project, was actually to allow these nodes to increase their throughput without, however, expanding the physical assets of the node. And the objective was really to increase the flexibility of the freight transport, to improve the service visibility, so to increase the attractiveness also of these services, and also to reduce the average cost of multimodal freight transport. So these two projects, SARIL and for freight, exemplify a little bit how the EU research is supposed or help us to support policy priorities. And the idea is indeed to have a sector, a freight transport sector, that is environmentally sustainable, digitally enabled, multimodal, and resilient to shocks. So this is a little bit the context. I pass immediately the floor to the first speaker, that is Dr. Chris Schroven, and she studied physics at the University of Bremen in Germany and received her PhD in 2018, followed by a 3-year postdoc at the Astronomical Institute in Prague in Czechia. In 2022, she joined the Department of Security and Resilience of Technical Systems at the Fraunhofer Institute for High-Speed Dynamics, the Ernest Mach Institute. And recently, she took over the coordination of the project SARIL. She will present SARIL. Thank you.
Oh my, all right, thank you very much. Yeah, it's my great pleasure to give you some insights into the project SARIL. Let me check if I am... Yes, okay. Yeah, let me first give you a little overview about the project. So it's a 3 years project. It's going to end already in May this year. We have in total 15 partners from all over Europe. We have a very good representation in companies as infrastructure providers as well as logistic companies. We have universities and research institutes as well as research companies in our group of partners, and we're also happy that we are joined by the European technology platform ALICE. It's based on a research and innovation action, and the total budget is about 4 million. So the vision of SARIL is basically based on answering 2 major questions, and that is how to make freight transportation more resilient and how can disruptions be handled in a sustainable way. And by the end of the project, we want to answer these questions by giving decision support on disruption handling, sustainable solutions in resilience concepts, and decision support and investments that increase resilience. We also want to give recommendations on business models and regulatory measures. And we are looking on different scales of the European transportation system. So in the beginning of the project, we came to a mutual understanding of what it means that a system is resilient and sustainable, and that is that it uses minimal resources to withstand and recover from disruptions. So let me now give you some information on the results that we achieved, and I can only cover a few. So I really hope that if you're interested, you can check the deliverables so far. And that is, first I want to talk about the stakeholder engagement that we had in the project. We then came up with a green resilience management, a methodology. And in order to perform this, we have developed solutions in SARIL and set up a tool architecture for that and how these tools can be linked with each other. And then based on all the previous steps, we want to derive business models and recommendations. And this is still under work, so here I can only give some preliminary information. Starting with the stakeholder exchange, we've started with interviewing our project partners and visiting them at their sites to get a good insight in what they are doing and what their interests and needs are. And then we went beyond the project borders by doing a 2-step survey, which we did together with our sister partner ReMuNet. And then we also had 2 rounds of workshops to dig deeper into the results that came out of the survey. What we had as a first result from these interviews with the stakeholders was that we identified and distinguished 3 major stakeholder roles that we want to address with the solutions that we develop in SARIL. And that is, role 1 is developing and maintaining transport infrastructure. Role 2 is to configure transport and logistic networks. And role 3 is to manage transport and logistic operations. And I cannot also go into all the findings from the workshops, but maybe 3 points that might not be of too much of surprise, but nevertheless I want to point them out here, is that, first of all, that data sharing and availability is key for disruption handling, and I think we heard about these things a lot during the last couple of days. Then the technical solutions that we are going to develop need to be easily integratable into already existing transport management systems that are already in use by the companies. And then finally, that sustainability is only or mainly considered under, so to say, good weather conditions. So as soon as we face a major disruption, sustainability aspects become, let's say, not the priority of the roles or stakeholders involved. Let me now give a little overview over the 3 scenarios that we discussed in SARIL and used as test beds for our solutions. And they are covering different scales and different types of disruptions. So we have our European scenario, this is our large-scale scenario, where we discussed pandemic and war. We have our national scenario, a medium-scale scenario where we discussed the disruptions caused by wildfires. And then we have a regional scenario, our small-scale scenario discussing flooding and coming along with data unavailability. And we, in the first part of the project, we set up a green resilience methodology that you can see briefly captured at the bottom. And it starts with a normal risk and vulnerability assessment where you need to understand the system or your company, what are the threats that your company is faced with, what are the vulnerabilities. And then based on this, we add transport and traffic modeling to the picture. So here you can then run what-if scenarios for your system and under various conditions, so you can check for possible outcomes of mitigation measures or disruptions that can happen. And then you use these results to do a resilience assessment, and for that we collected resilience factors that we then use to quantify the resilience of the system or of the discussed scenario that we had. And after that, we added sustainability aspects by sustainability factors and then checked again. And here we see that we have some resilience factors and sustainability factors that go hand in hand. So, for example, increasing visibility of your system can help both in sustainability and resilience, but there are other factors that can be contradicting to each other. For example, increasing the resistance of your system needs to use more material and so on and so forth, which has a negative impact on sustainability. So this is one of the key outcomes of the project, and that is the SARIL toolkit. So we had a lot of capabilities within our project, and then we had a lot of discussions on how can we link them together to then form this toolkit so that we can address all of these three roles that we previously identified as the main stakeholder roles that we want to address. And this starts by collecting data on road capacities, flooding maps, natural hazard maps, and other type of disruptions that can be collected from public sources from the internet. And they all are fed into the disruption information interface, one of the tools that was developed in SARIL. And they use this information to display them on a map in real time and give expectations on how long this disruption will last. And then this can help in the operational management to react quickly to disruptions. And this information was further used by other tools that we developed in SARIL that help to give or to introduce prediction capabilities to the different stakeholder roles. And here are really a lot of tools that were developed and that we also discussed and used to evaluate mitigation measures in the different scenarios. However, I want to just give you two little examples of what can be done. And here we have one example, and that is to use two tools from SARIL to support synchromodal decision making. And it starts with on the strategic logistic management level. So we have a logistic company and they have a transportation network, and then they can check different disruption scenarios and how their network would react to these disruption scenarios. And to do that, they can use the transport simulation tool Asteroid. And from these simulations, they can derive the best alternative route that they should use in case that a certain disruption takes place. And this is on the strategic management level. So this information is then used by Mixmove by adopting decision rules from these best alternative routes in how to best react to such a disruption. And this provides then an autonomous process to prepare cargo for onward transport in a hub that is affected by the disruption. So on the right-hand side, you can then see how this would then take place in the operational management. So you are in operation. You are currently faced with this disruption. And here we see the network by our partner Gebrüder Weiss. And originally they used the upper leg to shift their cargo from the left hub to the right hub. But then the top hub is disrupted. So now with the implementation of Mixmove, you have the decision rules available. So the cargo in the hub is automatically forwarded towards the new middle hub that you see in the bottom. So you don't need someone who's doing this hard-coded by hand, but the system is doing this automatically as soon as the disruption is detected. And here we have another example, and this is addressing role number 1, developing and maintaining transport infrastructure. And we have a network of the Iberian Peninsula, a road network, which was evaluated by which are the most important roads that that cause the most disruption if they are disrupted. And this was then mapped to a fire risk map and then indicated which of these important nodes have the highest risk to be affected by a forest fire. And there was one, here I describe one area that was selected where then there was a simulation done by in how the forest fire would evolve and how it would affect the roads and then the traffic, associated traffic. And you can see in the table that you have the baseline case under normal operation, then you see there is a fire in A55, and then you have two different, they portray here two, of the 3 different mitigation measures that were analyzed, and you can see how they impact the overall travel time of the goods. And here you see that there is some, let's say, the fire break approach performs best, at least in this diagram, and then you can do the same for sustainability aspect, so you check how much CO2 emissions will be caused by the mitigation measures, and there you see that the fire breaks don't perform as well, and then you are in a situation where you need to think about some trade-off between sustainability and resilience. So let me now come from the mid to long-term impact. So first of all, we promising business models and recommendations, and this is still under work. But I can give you a first insight to the recommendations, and that is mainly that for the different roles. We can say some general things now, and we will also collect the things that came out of the other deliverables so far to add to the recommendations. But we can say that for infrastructure providers, implementation of ongoing monitoring can be quite helpful, and also using forecasts, hazard forecasts to prepare better for these scenarios. For role number 2, we also think that investigation of alternative multimodal transport chains can be helpful, and also to evaluate your network for vulnerability and simulate disruptions. And in the operative management, real-time monitoring of the disruptions can be quite beneficial, and also to support dynamic decision-making for rerouting and mode switching. And finally, I would like to say, what impact are we hoping to get with our project, SARIL? And we have some medium-term impacts where we are hoping that our toolkit can provide a better preparedness for all the 3 roles that we introduced, and also to improve the reaction and mitigation of disruptions through the tools that we developed in the toolkit. We also hope that we are supporting discussions by the definition of green resilience, and also to have a bigger focus on the accounting for a trade-off between sustainability and resilience. And for the long-term impacts, we want to support standards in green resilience and pushing with our solutions a resilient by design approach for all the identified roles. And finally, SARIL was also looking at transportation networks from a more holistic point of view, and we hope that we are supporting a holistic understanding of the transport networks and system. And by that, this is just a quick summary, and by that I want to thank you for the attention, and also thank you for all the partners in the project.
Thank you. Thank you, Chris, for this presentation. I pass the floor to our second speaker, Sophocles Dice. And Sophocles is a researcher associate and a freight transport logistics team lead at CERT in Greece. And Sophocles specializes in innovation and digital transformation in transport and logistics, and he has been actively involved in several EU-funded projects. For instance, the project Iolix, Phoenix, for freight, of course, Ikigai, that is still ongoing, and has served in different roles like a project technical and pilot lead. Sophocles, please present for freight. Thank you.
So thank you very much. Hi, everybody. As you can see, I'm here also on behalf of my research director, Dr. Georgia Ifatopoulou, who she couldn't make it today, but she sends her regards to everybody. So my name is Sophocles, and I will say a few things about the For Freight project. Okay. So it's a Horizon project that was funded under Destination 60107 topic back in 2021. It started in September 2022 and ended in this December 2025. So what I'm going to present is the final output of the project. The budget was over 7 million euros, and it involved 18 partners from 7 countries across Europe. You can see the countries in the map. The blue ones are the pilots. So we had pilots, multimodal logistics pilots in Spain, Greece, and Romania. The coordinator was Earth, and the technical coordinator of the project was Wings. So, For Freight aimed actually to improve the efficiency, sustainability, and resilience of multimodal freight transport and logistics. And we did it by deploying interoperable logistics solutions in real-life multi-stakeholder multimodal cases in Romania, Spain, and Greece, but also coupled these technological innovations with the introduction of novel collaborative business models, but also, and this is something that we put a lot of effort during project implementation, on advancing communication between different standardization bodies and also provide actual contributions to standardization. We focus on 4 different targets as our outcomes, key operational outcomes. This is resource utilization, efficiency, resilience, and sustainability. Spoiler alert, as we are finished, we managed to achieve our goals, but more details will follow later on in the presentation. So about the results, let me share with you some key ideas about the value proposition of the project. So what we aim to do there was to enhance the cooperation, the end-to-end cooperation of stakeholders in supply chains by aligning the interest of the supply chain stakeholders. So we aim to identify scenarios and outcomes that increase the benefit for all involved stakeholders in a supply chain. So the starting point to do so was to identify recurring and usual multimodal transport challenges that we faced as researchers, but also our partners, the industrial partners, faced in their day-to-day operations. And we identified that the most inconsistencies in terms of communication, but also in data exchange and live data exchange, were to be found in the interfaces between modes. So when we have a change in mode during the transportation of some goods, there we had a problem because the information didn't go through as seamless as expected or as it should be. So our solution to this problem was to define and design a community platform, which is not a centralized one, like a heavy central platform that everybody should use, otherwise they will fail, but a decentralized architecture that goes on top of the legacy systems of the involved stakeholders, which actually, to share some information, we had big ports there, airports, third-party logistics providers, freight forwarders, We had like a wide range of different stakeholders involved in our cases. So we developed this high-level orchestrator of data, which connects legacy systems with other sources of information, could be weather information, traffic information, or any type of information required for any different use case. And then we coupled this data with services that have been developed as part or adapted as part of the project to develop something that we call generalized super services. So different data feeds and different services combined together to provide a solution to an end-to-end multimodal problem, focusing on specific interfaces. Based on that, we aimed and we managed to have fact-driven monitoring and decision-making in our operations. And just to share some more info, some examples about these super services and what could be a super service. We had, for instance, in the Greek pilot site, in the interface between the port of Piraeus and the Athens International Airport, a super service that is called Optimal Freight Flight Recommender based on seamless multimodal transition. So whenever someone wanted to push cargo from the port to the airport, then well in advance, before even the vessel arrived at the port, they knew the information and they pushed it to the port, to the airport automatically in order to get recommendation of which one will be the best flight to board this cargo and send it across Europe or the world. And this is significant because it reduces the delays, it reduces the idle capacity, it reduces like huge lanes where trucks were parked outside the airport waiting for them to be served. So it was a situation that everybody gained in many terms. Another example from the Romanian pilot was the river-to-railway resource planning and allocation system, where we had the inland port of Galați there connected to the local railway system in a similar fashion based on data. And also we had a couple of digital twins applied in the Spanish pilot site, but I will add more information, I will share more information about them later on. So based on this analysis we made on the challenges and the value proposition that we suggested, we ended up with these 5 innovations, which are actually our most important key exploitable results also. So of course, it's this federated, decentralized community platform. The second one is the set of super services that we have developed. There are more than 15, if I'm not mistaken. And these super services are all making use of different technologies. And I keep this as a third key innovation because some of these technologies are also standalone innovations in our projects. In our projects, for instance, the 2 digital twins, which were the most successful implementation and it has been identified as the most useful tool for the Spanish pilot site. But besides the technological innovation that we aim to have in the project, we worked on other aspects, and I'm quite proud to say we did quite well there. One is we tried to understand the requirements of the stakeholders, the operational stakeholders in terms of data across modes, and so to define a common ground, a common glossary between the different modes. So we focused a lot on standardization based on ecosystematic data mapping and not working on silos in each different mode. But we viewed the supply chain as it is, a whole ecosystem that needs to discuss, to communicate easily. And the final one is the integration of the subway into the multimodal freight transport. This happened in the Spanish pilot site, and I'm quite happy to share that Metro de Madrid has already published a tender to actually exploit this as a service of the Metro to use the trains for last mile delivery into lockers inside train stations. Okay. So, can I go back a bit? Yeah. Just to, because I have some pictures there also. So up there you can see all the different interfaces that we managed into the project. We have vessel to rail, we have port to airport, we have port to road or rail, but also the subway. And we applied this into the 3 pilot sites, and down there you can see how a super service looks like. So each one of these boxes are either steps of the process or data that are fed or services that are used in order to have a final output. So this represents an end-to-end solution to an existing challenge. Okay, so about the key operational results, as I mentioned before, we focused on 4 different target areas. And we managed to have good outcomes there. So in terms of the resource utilization optimization, we managed to have 40% up to 60% end-to-end personnel utilization in Greece and Romania, but also higher cargo handling capacity in Greece. We also reduced by 61% the vehicle circulation when it comes to last mile delivery, because we managed to move all this cargo through the subway. In terms of efficiency, we recorded decreases in times on an average of 30% across all pilot sites, and 45% in the reduction of operational costs in Spain. In terms of resilience, we focused more on the reliability of delivery, of the cargo delivery, and we had a 49% increase there, and on more than twice the volume of delivered parcels. Okay, we had 0 errors and accidents, but this is during piloting, so the data set was specific. We need to check this in the future, of course, to make sure that we had an actual influence there. And finally, regarding sustainability, we recorded across all pilot sites reductions between 47% and 85%. The 85% is primarily because of the subway use, because as you can imagine, substituting a lot of vehicles going around the city with a mode that is eco-friendly could have like significant GHG decreases. And of course, in the Romanian pilot, we recorded 45% in the reduction of fuels used. Here is an overview of our key exploitable results. As I mentioned, one of them is our platform, the for freight platform, but also the digital twins for optimal cargo optimization in the port of Valencia, but also in the Metro de Madrid, were identified as the most useful tools that we developed. But we need to discuss how transferable can be, because in most of the cases, digital twins are developed based on specific requirements. So this is a discussion that we need to have in general. And also I would like to point out that some of the solving processes, the super services that we have developed, focusing on ETA and estimated time of arrival. And someone can say that, okay, this is something that we are doing many years now, and we have solutions and they can use them. But what we identified in collaboration with the stakeholder is that they were not happy with the outcomes of the generic ETA, and they would like to have some tools that connect the different steps of a process in order to provide an estimated of arrival for specific, for the end of the process, not in the intermediate steps. And they said that they couldn't have this from generic ETA predictors. So this, for instance, helped us a lot with flight recommender solver, because they had an estimation of when the cargo will arrive at the airplane, even when the cargo wasn't at the port itself, so many steps before. So the operational partners were really glad that they actually were able to have these services and make use of them. And also, I would like to stress out here that one key concept of the For Freight platform is that it's built in order to be flexible. So in the future, and we are going to discuss this later. How many? 2 minutes? Ooh, okay. Ooh, I wasn't expecting that. So I will talk about that. Okay, thank you. So some key added value achievements. We developed 2 digital twins, one on the next mode from Valencia port to road or rail, and the second one on last mile operations and the optimal allocation of parcels to lockers using the metro station. We did some work on patenting. You can see it's more on hardware. I cannot share more information because they are still under review, so apologies for that. And the point that I'm quite happy and proud about the project is the standardization achievements we had. We, of course, the For Freight systems are all equipped with message translators in order to translate information between different data models, but also we made a good collaboration with different organizations through our partner TIC 4.0, so the IPCSA, IATA, PIMA, ITPCO, and also GS1, where we suggested a way of having a globally unique identifier for the transport and return of parcels using the subway. And also an MOU with the Open Logistics Foundation. All this information, you can find them on Zenodo. Another thing that I would like to stress out is key collaboration activities. We collaborate with a lot of projects. We have the coordinator of Admiral here, Ville. Hi, Ville. But also 5G projects and our sister project, Multi-Reload, which had their final event just yesterday. Mid to long-term results. In the mid-term, we focused on efficient logistics chains. So we focused on economic, social, environmental aspects, but also reliability and accessibility of technology. But what we aim to do in the future is to go to resilient logistics chains, and this is the long-term vision of For Freight, which involves supply chain optimization, but also clean, automated, and connected logistics services. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Sophocles. And we open now the session question answer, and for this I pass the floor to Isabelle. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Paola. And before opening the questions to the audience, I do have a burning question from my side as well, which is that, I mean, we saw that these 2 projects are really at the core of our current challenges in Europe, meaning competitiveness, resilience, decarbonization, digitalization, as it has been highlighted in the air-track long-distance freight roadmap, but also in the 3R partnership, CCAM and 2.0. And my question is to both of you, what comes next? Because both of you now, you are coming to an end of the project period. So what's the future for this project? Maybe you'd like to start here?
Yes, thank you. Don't look very technical firm here, but yeah, so as you saw that a big chunk of the work went into the SARIL toolkit, and we are really hoping that we can continue with the work. Since this was a research innovation action, the tools really took a huge step forward in SARIL in the TRL level, but they are still not market ready, and we are really looking forward to developing these tools further so that they actually can be used in the market. There are already some projects running where some tools will be developed further, and the partners, the company partners in our project also showed interest in the further development of these tools, so I'm quite confident that something will develop from here.
Okay, thank you. For the question, actually, it's besides being how can I say this? Obligation of the grant agreement of the project to have a mid-term and even long-term continuation. We aim to develop in the next few months a joint venture in order to at least see how we are going to exploit the technological innovations of our project, which are the main platform and the solving processes. The good thing, as I tried to mention before, but I kept it for now, is that the system, the main system, is built and designed in that way in order to support modularity and the reuse of essential components in order to design new solving processes and onboard new data sources and onboard new legacy systems. So we did it that way in order to increase the chances of future exploitability of the systems. And of course, to provide a system that is useful. This is about the main innovation, technological innovations, and also, as I mentioned, we had the subway used for last mile deliveries, which will be exploited by Metro de Madrid commercially.
Brilliant, sounds great. Thanks a lot. I would like to open the floor. Is there any question from the audience? Nope, but then I will oh, there is one. Sorry for that.
Hello everyone, Bartosz from Poznań Institute of Technology. Thank you for the presentations. I just have one question to both of you actually. We just discussed the future exploitation plans. I was wondering, judging also by the topic and the situation we are in, whether you thought of the platforms, the systems as a dual-use technology, and whether it could be used also in times of war or disruptions like that. Thank you.
Yes, thank you for the question. So we had one scenario that was considering war, and there we looked into how does the European transport network react to a strong rerouting of goods due to the war in Ukraine. And I think that could be very valuable also for further disruption in this area. I think this is one tool that could definitely help here. The other one would also be to look into more of monitoring of critical infrastructures so that you early on see that there is some damage there. I hope that answers the question in that regard.
Okay, in our case, to be honest, we didn't focus on specific scenarios that or disasters that would lead to disruptions, but we understood logistic disruption as one thing, that it happens and we need to be more robust and we need to identify alternatives. So we took a more generic approach, but it does make sense in the world of logistics, so it was a useful one. I agree that we need to focus on critical infrastructure. That's why we also focused on specific nodes like ports, airports, which are critical in times of war or in similar situations. So I feel that if we have robust nodes, then it's a really good step to have robust supply chains and be able to overcome disruptions coming from war, from pandemics, or from other kinds of disasters. Thank you.
Thank you. Do we have another question from the audience? Yeah, please.
I would like to ask, so in a sense...
Just a second.
Hi. Hello, Ioana Kourignotou from Pantea. Thank you very much for your presentations. They were really, really very interesting and very relevant, I think, for these times. I was wondering, there is an ongoing discussion about the interoperability of the infrastructure, rail, etc. So do you see, like, digital interoperability, replacing the physical infrastructure interoperability, meaning that in the node, you make sure that all types of delays, they can be absorbed using digital means. I don't know if it's clear. Thank you.
Yeah, I think I got the question, but please correct me if like out of scope. I feel that digitalization cannot be the answer for everything, but we have a good chance if we use our technological tools well, like artificial intelligence or I don't know, other similar info, or even the Internet of Things to gather data from different sources. We have a really good chance to minimize the gap or to minimize the potential risk. So what we did in For Freight was to understand the needs of each different stakeholder, even in one node, because you know a port can also be connected to rail or to road. So there we have an interface between two modes. We understood what each one of them needs and how it communicates it. And we use digital means in order to make this communication seamless. And this, in the end, reduced the times considerably. But it didn't reduce all problems, because you know you still might have some stakeholders that are resistant to this change, or even they are not yet, in terms of infrastructure, ready to embrace the change. So, yeah.
Like in case of redirections, is the network ready to absorb this?
Yeah, actually there what we did was to connect these exchange of data with forecasts, so we knew if something happens, what's our alternative. And so this reduces uncertainty. Okay, it adds some time in order to replace or missing piece and go the other way, but forecasting is a huge tool for logistics. We need to understand if happens this, what will be our problem and how we are going to avoid this problem in the end. So the digital twins were one thing, but also other models that we have developed in order to predict things.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you for the question. Do we have another question from the audience? Yes.
First of all, thanks a lot for the presentation. Andre from Mobility, London-based. I have a question around data access. Both of you have shared very relevant examples of kind of downstream impacts. But in our experience, we've got some kind of challenges with accessing downstream forwarders' data. I think when talking about scalability, because all of them have got quite different data sets. So I would love to hear your experience with accessing forwarders' data for impact analysis, especially when they are not owned or not managed by the operators directly. Thank you.
I can start, but I think I cannot really answer the question much. We as we were Research and Innovation Action, we were strongly using the data that was provided by project partners, and they were also very willing to share the data. So we didn't have the issue of them not wanting to hand us over the data. But we do realize that they have difficulties to let's say, book other modes of transportation as a response to a disruption, because this takes time, and some data is definitely helpful here. More data, yeah.
Thank you.
Okay, from my experience, not only on For Freight, but also other projects, this question needs to be answered during proposal preparation and not during the project. Because if you found out that you miss some data and you don't have the proper partners involved in the project to provide this data, this is a huge risk that you may not be able to overcome it in the end. So what we usually do when we set up consortia to address some topics and submit our proposals is, first of all, to break down the use cases and see what are the needs, the data needs, and define the critical, the minimum requirements for stakeholders, industrial stakeholders involved, in order to make sure that we are going to actually have a successful case there if the project is granted. This is one thing. The second thing is that you need to choose also the specific partners. Okay, you need a freight forwarder. Which one? They need to be, in some cases, a small one, in other cases, a large one, to showcase the scale of, for instance, we have a collaboration like many years now with a courier in Greece, which they handle 30% of the total throughput of parcels in Greece. So in some cases, we need to go with them. In other cases, we need to collaborate with smaller companies. So we based our choice on trusted collaboration, on long-term collaboration before going into the specific project. And also, we need to make sure that all data are there. Okay, of course, during project implementation, things can happen and you may lose access to some data. There you need to be proactive and exchange this or add more partners if it's possible, or remove some partners and add some new partners that they will be readily available to provide the data that you require. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much for this question. I have another one that maybe I'd like to address to SARIL here, because you mentioned and you insisted very much about the different stakeholders' roles that you have, and also about the trade-off between sustainability and resilience. How do you tackle that? You know, can you adapt? Can you tailor your tool based on the specific end-user needs? We know that one size doesn't fit all in this industry. They all have different needs. So do you have any type of suggestion, recommendation, methodology to tailor-made things so that this is reaching out the market?
I cannot say that we have a methodology. What we did was that we were defining the stakeholder roles in the very beginning, and then figuring out what their needs and interests are, and then we had the capabilities of tools that can be developed on the table, and then we, let's say, rerouted the development to address the needs that we figured out. And so this toolkit that was introduced is not meant as one toolkit that, let's say, a company is using, but it's different tools that can be used by different stakeholder roles, and they are addressing their needs. So we have some tools that are addressing the needs for the operational management, and that they can automate the rerouting process in a hub, but also getting real-time information on disruptions. And then there are other tools that are more focused on infrastructure providers and their interest in their trade-off between sustainability and resilience in the different type of mitigation measures that they can use to protect the infrastructure, for example. Yes, so I think there are different interests, especially also with the infrastructure providers might be more interested in looking for sustainable options, while we have with the logistic companies, while they also want to serve sustainability aspects because their customers are demanding for it, their main, let's say, interests are usually time and money. So if there's no push, let's say, from other directions, sustainability is not an intrinsic motivation that they have.
Very good, thank you. And then maybe if I may ask a question also for freight here, because you are looking into common ground in multimodal data exchange, you call that, and especially standardization. And here I'd like to know, what's our view here on the progress in interoperability, and how far are we in this journey of, the perfect digital platform and digital Europe? What's your view there?
I think it's still too early. Indeed, now it's better. Okay, there are two main things in this discussion, I believe. One thing is that legacy systems are not built for interoperability. So every different logistics operator would like to do things the way they would like to do things. This is one major concern in the industry. Then again, if in the supply chain one of the actors is huge, and usually it's the final customer before us, before the citizens. For instance, a big supermarket or someone like that. Then they may be able to impose their own way of doing things. This is one thing. The second thing is that different organizations, standardization organizations, either for profit or non-profit, they work based on their agenda and on their requirements and focus only, for instance, in port optimization or in the road or in rail. And these silos were partly broken for freight because we took TIC 4.0, our partner, which is mostly focusing in port standardization, and we made them discuss with IATA, which is about aviation. We made them discuss with the Open Logistics Foundation. We signed MOUs. We did mappings between the data sets of different organizations and identified that they use the different words to describe the same things. In some occasions, some additions may be required. For instance, in the TIC 4.0 data model, in this mapping with IATA, we identified a few points that were missing, mostly parts related to aviation transport. So we are still on an early stage in terms of standardization, but I'm hopeful that there is a way of overcoming these barriers, either by adopting the same data model or have communicated data model, or by using AI to make this more automated.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Before going for my final and last question, I'd just like to check with the audience if there would be a final question. No, I cannot see any more hands. So here, maybe it comes here, and if you could be short, a few words, one sentence maximum. What's the next steps in your areas in terms of research, based on your experience? What is it that needs to be done to enhance even more competitive, resilient, and sustainable road freight transport? What do you think?
So one experience that we had is that in case of disruptions, trucks are still the most flexible way to react to them. So I think it would be very interesting to check where these trucks may be replaced by electrified and autonomous driving are still needed to react quickly to disruptions, and where we can do more mode shifting to waterway and rail. And by that, I think we need more predictive capabilities and checking the the system and how it reacts to different kind of conditions. Thank you.
Okay, from my side, it's two things. One is that I would like to see more topics on cross-regional collaboration between EU and other areas in the world, like China or the US, or even Africa, why not, and Latin America. On the other side, I would like to focus more on synchromodality as a next step of multimodality. So we have the networks, and we would like to see how to increase resilience through synchromodality. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
That's the code in 2026.
Yeah, thank you so much to the speaker. I think today we've learned a lot. We've learned about toolkits being on the shelf, if not tailor-made, capable to address the various stakeholder needs, including dual use that we discussed. Regarding the access to data, it's about involving specific partners. It's about combining information from the respective partner to allow access to information and transport flow. Then we've been discussing also AI and discussing if we would maybe turn to a digital infrastructure more than a physical infrastructure. And then also regarding standardization, there's still much more work to be done. And yeah, so let's continue the hard work there. So maybe the next technology agent for the next technology program here, Paola, the next step will be our capacity to adapt all this to the automotive driving and to automation with predictive capabilities, and then also, of course, our ability to cross-collaborate, maybe with some other regions or also with other modes. With this, Paola, I think I turn to you.
Thank you. Well, I just wanted to close by thanking the speakers, two speakers that held the entire session. So can I invite you to a final applause for the speakers, please? Thank you. And I would like to thank the organizer, especially Xavier, that has been organizing all of this, and the organization and AirTrack. So thank you very much for this. And to Isabelle for this very nice dynamic discussion. So thank you very much. The next in the program is lunch. So please enjoy the networking, and the session restarts at 1:45. Thank you very much. Have a nice day. Goodbye.